What's happening, my friends? Welcome to this episode of Carseats and Coffee. I'm your host, Thomas McMinn, and in this episode, I'm talking to Kevin Hoover, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go, man. I'm excited.
All right. Kevin, thank you so much for jumping on the show, brother. I appreciate it.
Hey, this is awesome, man. I love it. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, Kevin, let's let the audience know about you. Before we jump into your role as a dad, what makes Kevin tick?
Oh man, time with my family. That's my number one, man. It hasn't always been that way, but my son's 4, and so I mean, it's a cliche to say, but time goes quick. And I think I became a father later in life, so I was more aware of it because all my friends were telling me that, and so I was lucky to listen. So time with my family really, really pushes me. Being a role model for my son, and trying to be just the best man I can be. Husband, father, businessman, all that.
Sure.
That's what I'm all about.
So let's dive into that a little bit. What do you do you said businessman? What's that entail?
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business coach, personal coach. I help entrepreneurs with growing their business, creating more time, really. And really, this year I've shifted focus to helping parent entrepreneurs become more of a better parent and have a successful business. Because I just hate people that are just grinding away their kids' childhood, plug and not to wake up and their kid's 12 years old, 15 years old, and they've missed it, and every 100% of the people I talk to that happens, they look back and go, man, that was a shame I traded money for that. And most people aren't even happy with the amount of money they traded for, to be honest with you. So it's
Right.
really helping people navigate those waters is really my forte.
I love that, man, because you hear that constantly. Like that's like real regret, right? At the end of
Oh
your career, you had the house, the cars, that you went out, you did all these things, and then it's like every single one of those individuals, if you stop them and talk to them that are family, that have a family, are like, man, I would have traded it all. I would have traded
100%.
every last dime of it, right?
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's the thing. You would regret is the biggest thing we're working towards. A lot of people go through business and life trying to reduce risk, and it's really, let's reduce our regret. Like, what if I choose this? Am I going to regret it when I'm 80?
Oh man.
When my son turns 18, am I going to regret like not being at the soccer game or not being at the piano recital or not being just there to put a puzzle together? Like, I really try to operate on that level now, that when he's young, because I do see a lot of people who are like, I'd trade the sports car and the big house with the big pool
Mm.
for just another week of being in my son's life or my kid's life when they were 5. So it's really crazy to think about that.
Absolutely, man. Time's the real commodity, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I love that. So let's jump into it. Tell me a little bit about you as a dad, like how many kids you have and all that.
Oh man, we've so this is a long, deep story. I hope you're all right with that.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, brother. Let's go.
Yeah, so I've got one son. His name's Baxley. He's 4 and a half. He'll be 5 in February. He's obviously everything to me. But this year this kind of thing became really important to me this year. My son was diagnosed with cancer in March, stage 4 rhabdomyosarcoma. He's in the next room. He's fine. Like, he's kicking its ass. He's really working it, but it obviously shook me and my family up quite a bit when you go through that. So we just have the one, but sometimes it feels like we have 4 or 5.
Yeah, I bet, man.
Yeah, but he's a good dude, and really my philosophy as a dad from the day it was, I became a dad when I was 40. So I was later in life, I'd already experienced a ton of things, lived in a lot of places, met a lot of people, and I'd already decided, that it was going to be the most important thing for me. So I'm really lucky. I don't know if I would have made that choice earlier in my life. I hope I would have, but who knows, So being a dad was really the first thing that I really wanted to do, and give my all to it, and not really let anything slip away by the wayside. So I like to think I did. And then, in March when he was diagnosed with cancer, it was the scariest moment of my life. And when you think about everything, having a lot of time to really say, this is what I want, and then you have a day where all of that can be taken away. Whew, brother, it's a tough pill to swallow. A lot of physical reactions. I collapsed, and just, getting in tune with, like, how do you navigate these waters? Because this is not in the book. This is not, like,
Man.
This is not in the book. So it really put in perspective a lot of things for me as far as what's important. And, instead of working towards the big paycheck or the big house or the big, whatever it is, the accolades, the rewards, whatever, it really put in check of like, you know what, just show up, like just be a man and show up and hold your son's hand, like give him a kiss on the lips. He's 4, so I can still do that,
Yeah.
Not weird yet. you
Yeah.
know, but and model to him like what's a good husband, what's
Yeah.
dad do, and so all of this just really came up this year as far as what kind of dad am I, and I was put to the test on a pretty deep level of what that means and what kind of businessman am I, but not only what kind of businessman am I, what kind of businessman am I for my family, and if that makes any sense, how does that tie together? And so my dad philosophy is show up every day, all day, show up. If it's between my son and a meeting, the meeting goes away 100%. If he needs me, it goes away. Now he's in the other room and he said, Daddy, let's put a puzzle together. He's not alone. He's with someone. So he's cared for. I said, son, give me 45 minutes. We're going to put all your puzzles together this afternoon. Trust me, I promise, but this is important.
Oh, I love it. I love it, man. Yeah, you have to jump off at any time. But this is what it's all about. It's about family, and you got that right. So,
Oh, yeah, no, we're good. Like, this is important, too, because this is kind of what through this, we've kind of used it, kind of like you're using your podcast. That's why I was so excited to talk to you, really, because I don't think there's enough love out there for dads that do things like you do, really shining a light on people who are really trying. And we may not have figured out. I don't have it figured out. I would say I'm a great dad. I say I'm learning every day. I love like crazy with everything I got. And I'll give my shirt off my back to any kid out there, but I think really giving back and showing people, teaching people and giving support, I think that's as important for him to see as anything else. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. I think that's the message. The more dads I get the chance to speak with, man, I haven't had anybody that's even gone through a fraction of what you're dealing with right now, brother. I can't even process that. And just that strength is unbelievable to have to be that dad and like showing up and being supportive and feeling like you're just like breaking inside and you're still dealing with it all, brother. That's amazing. And I
Well,
think,
I mean, I can speak to that too, because I do hear that a lot. And, I can sense you, and, it's really the kind of thing that you never wish anybody had to go. I wish nobody had to go through it. But if you did have to go through it, you would do the same.
Mhm.
You just would. Because I think that's the funny thing about being resilient is you never really know if you are until you actually have to do it. Like you try to say, anything for my son. And then you get there and you're like, I have to catheter my son 5 times a day. And you're like, anything that's hard. I don't care how you, it's like, and luckily we don't have to do that anymore. We moved past it, but you show up. It goes back to that mentality of whatever it takes. My son needs an organ and I'm the guy. He gets it. Like if my son needs blood, he gets it. Bone marrow, he gets it. Like, and you just show up. And so it really is the kind of thing where I never saw me having to be that kind of dad, but when I did have to be, there was no question. Wasn't like, oh, how am I going to do this? You just go and do, that's
yeah.
that's
Well,
the
I think
mentality.
that's what's crazy about it. You hear that all the time, dad saying, "Oh, I do anything for my kids. I do anything for my kids." But how many times in life do we really get put in that situation where you got to do anything? Like
Yeah.
you're in it, brother. You're like living it. Like
Oh
you're
yeah.
doing that, and that's incredible.
Well,
I think,
thank you. I appreciate that. It is. And I give him a lot of credit for that. Cause he's, we just got our 31 week scans back and it showed the tumor was dead. It's still there, but the tumor was dead, and he's like, he was supposed to lose his hair again. He's not losing his hair. Blood count goes down. It's not going down. He's like, it's just, the
oh
kid
man,
is just fighter. He is just 100% fighter. So he inspires me to keep going more than anything. I look at him and I cue off him. And if he weren't the way he is, it would be very hard for me to kind of carry the load. But I look at little 4-year-old backs and he's like, that's he deserves like me to show up. And sometimes I don't feel like it. I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes it's like just want to sit in the corner and like cry, but then he's out there bouncing around with us. He's like, "Hey, Daddy, let's go." And I'm like, how can I be down now? Like, you know what I mean? It's
right,
crazy.
right. So let's even like step it back. So before he was born, talk to me like leading up to that. Like, was the excitement, the nerves, like how were you feeling?
Scared to death. Scared. I mean, it was, I mean, even like, I never, I think I first felt it when my wife was like, we got to pick a name. And I was like, I got to name a human? Like,
Right.
this is pressure. This is real pressure. So, you know, and I was like, I'm not in shape. I'm not, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, like it was just all the, I guess, normal things. But right before he was born, I decided I was going to run a half marathon. I was going to get in shape and make some big life changes. And, you know, because that's what you stack on top of this, having a son, you stack, you know, the hardest thing you've ever done physically onto it. But I was committed to it, and I got up and ran and did my thing. And I ended up, I ran the race 10 days before he was born, and I finished, and it was great. And then he was born. I felt, so that really, I think that helped me kind of process. I remember going on those long runs by myself, and, you know, being, you know, going on a 10-mile run and, you know, being an hour and a half into a run and just having that time with yourself was really, I think that was beneficial. I thought it was hell at the time. I did not like it, didn't enjoy it. You know, but looking back, I think that probably got me a little bit of clarity, a little bit of confidence coming into it. But man, I was scared to death. I'm glad I didn't know the whole story then. But you know, then he was born. It was like this instantaneous moment. I don't know if you can relate, but it was like the minute I held him, fear went away, everything went away, and I was like, whatever it takes. I don't know what to do. Whatever it takes.
See, that's funny. I think when I held my son, my oldest son, for the first time, I was like looking at him. I'm like, oh my, like what now? Right. It was kind of like, what? Like, wait a minute. This little human's gonna look at me the same way I was looking at my dad. Like, it was hard to process, dude. It's like, what is happening? You know?
That's a big one, right? That's when you like. Everyone I thought was a hero when I was little. Now this guy's looking at me like that, and I know I'm not.
And then it brings up everything inside, like, am I strong enough? Am I smart enough? Do I have enough money? Like all these things. And it's like
100.
And it's funny because it's all the stuff that really doesn't matter. It doesn't make those things don't make you a great dad.
Like, they don't.
I think that one foundation that you were talking about that makes that great dad is showing up in love.
Yeah. 100%.
You have that, dude. I think you've got it pretty much nailed to a point, right?
You can do a lot wrong if that's the worst you do. If you show up in love with all you got, then, you know, and I talk to my son. My son sees me make mistakes, and I think really that's where I'm really lucky that I realized what I realized, because we talk about it. I'm like, yeah, Dad made a mistake. Dad got an oopsie, you know, like, showing him that there's that element of human and then I can recover. And normally it happens, you know, when I miss a chore or something. My wife's like, you had one thing to do today. But I think showing my boy that that's part of being a man is owning up to it, fessing up to it, and trying to fix those little oopsies and those mistakes you make. It's, you know, I don't know that I was ever shown that, but I don't know that I was paying attention enough as a kid. So I don't know what he'll take from it. I just know that I want to be that transparent, because it's just much easier than trying to be perfect.
Oh, dude.
You know?
Oh, man. I was trying to play that for too long. I actually had stopped doing this podcast for a little while because I felt like I was trying to like fake being somebody. I was trying to like portray being this like ultimate dad. And it was like, dude, what are you trying to do? Like, just be you. Just be real. And if you can't be real, you can't talk to other dads about being real, brother. That's not like, that wasn't right. You know what I mean? So now bringing it back, it's like, look, I'm with you. I'm not perfect by any means. Like, I mess up and I try to do the same thing. It's like, because with my father, I never like really heard him say, and he could have, I just don't remember him ever like apologizing for his actions to me. And it's like, I try to do that with my kids. Like, look, this is part of being a man. We mess up sometimes. Like, I apologize. Maybe I raised my voice or whatever. I didn't mean to do that in that moment. Just got a hold of me. But, you know, it wasn't okay. And you just talk about these things. And then you start seeing your kids, like, especially with our boys, you start seeing those cogs moving, right? And it's like, okay, if dad can do it, then I can do it.
Yeah. Right? I think that's power. That's the, and I think this generation, you know, I'm the same way. Like my dad was, you know, he was very much take care of us financially, build the business. He was an entrepreneur as well. And he did great. And my dad and I are very close. I had a great childhood. I didn't get everything I wanted, but I didn't want for the necessities. You know, we had clothes and food and eat and things like that. But also we'd go to the store and the answer was no 90% of the time. You know? Right. But I'm grateful for that. And so I think bringing that in and then saying, okay, well, what did I miss? And, you know, I missed the things like owning up to mistakes. I missed the things like, hey, I'm real proud of you. Or I missed the things like, the little things, the little life lessons that I look back and go, wow, that would have been really great to know at that point in my life. And I think just being hyper aware of that now um, and I don't know, we may get to one where my son's like, hey, all right, Dad, I get it. You can make a mistake. I got it. You know, like, because I'm just oversensitive to it. I want to make sure that we're all good and we're okay, that we can apologize. And I can get mad at him, but know that I still love him, you know, and that I can correct behavior and I correct my behavior. And that's okay. That's part of being a man, you know, and I think hopefully that's the generation that we're raising, that we can be more in tune with that side of things and not have to, like you said, I've done plenty of that in business where it's like you hang up the phone or you get out of the meeting or you get off the video and you're like, feel like a complete imposter, complete fraud.
Right.
I do not have this figured out. I do not know what I'm doing fully. And it's better just to own that and say, let's all figure it out together collectively than fake it, you know, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. So I want to kind of just like dive in a little bit before this last year and everything kicked in, right? How do you feel like as a father, minus like you saying you had to like step it up and do some things that you never expected to do, but just like from a personality or maybe from a teaching standpoint, even like how do you feel you've changed from the year prior to like now what's going on with your son?
Oh man, it's I think the personal changes over the last, you know, he's 4, so over the last 5 years, really, from the time we were pregnant and through him being born, and then through everything that we've been through this year, the changes are dramatic, you know. And I think it was really a conscious decision. Like I decided to be a good dad
Mm.
at all costs, and that was important to me. And it wasn't because I had a bad father. It wasn't because I see the importance of the male figure in a kid's life, especially a boy. And I say, okay, well, what I am now isn't going to be good enough for him as he grows. Like I've got to be the best me. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to have it all figured out. I've just got to be the best me and show him effort. And I think that took a little bit of pressure off, because when we first got pregnant, I was like, all right, I got to get my shit together in 9 months. I don't know how to do that. So, but now I've kind of graduated more. And once he was born, I was more to the point of, and you know, he looks you in the eyes, he squeezes your finger the first time, all the first things that you go through. First time he says "dada," you know, and the first time he did something that I had done, like the first time he copied me, that was a big thing, and that was delightful and heavy at the same time.
Mm.
You know, because I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, he's watching every little thing, and it was something, I forget what it was. It was like the way I chew, or the way, like something stupid that just doesn't make a big impact. And I was like, he's watching everything.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
I think I've changed completely from before being a father to now, and it really is a change for the better. If I could take that and give it to every man who's 22, 23, and not a dad yet, and say, here's the toolkit, you know, of being a real man. But I honestly I don't think it exists until you actually have to experience it yourself. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the one thing you said there that really like resonates with me, because the guest I had on yesterday said the exact same thing, made a conscious decision to become the dad that I wanted to be. Right. And I'm trying to break that down because I don't know why, like, why is it that some of us feel that way and others don't, right? It's
Right.
like, what is it when you say, I'm going to be this person, and then you just go at it, right?
Yeah.
And do you think it's like making that conscious decision and then just taking massive amounts of action is what actually gets you to that point? Or do you think like sitting and reflecting like got you to where you're like the opposite choice is like too much to bear, you know what I mean? Like not being that dad would be worse in the long run. So like I'm ignoring like the fear or the pain more so, and that's the driving factor. You know what I'm saying with that?
Yeah. That's a great question. That's a great way to look at it too. Um, you know, here's what I mean. I'm going to go with my gut. My intuition's talking, so I'm going to go with it. Like, I really think that fear is a big part of that. And I think for a lot of people, they fear they can never become the perfect. So why try? You
Mm.
know, I think that could play into it. And I just knew that I was going to make progress. I knew I was never going to be, I know I'm never going to be the perfect anything. But what I am happy with is progress. And I can see myself growing as a man through being a father. My son can see me growing of the things that, you know, he he doesn't have to deal with anymore. You know, I realize that he likes playing video games and he's pretty good at them. And that's not a bad thing most of the time, considering what we have to go through. So let's go. You
Yeah.
know, and so I think really looking at it and saying, I don't have to be the perfect dad. I just have to make progress every day, learn something every day, be compassionate every day, show love every day, try to laugh, take
Yeah.
time when I don't feel like taking time. Maybe I've had a hard day, or maybe dinner's not quite ready, or maybe somebody yelled at me that day, or whatever it is, and just shove all that aside and make progress. So I think it can be overwhelming if you think about being perfect all the time, and you probably can relate to that, because I sure can. When I try to measure myself against and it's a fictitious, I don't know what the perfect dad looks like, but when I try to measure myself against that, it seems impossible,
Absolutely.
and it can be really daunting. So I think I just was like, you know what, I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to just commit to getting better. And I think if I do that, something good is going to happen. I don't know what, but something.
I love that. It's basically like you said, it's progress over perfection, right? We're just gonna
Yeah,
keep going at it every day, and things are gonna change one way or another, but we're gonna go at it, right?
100%. Tomorrow comes, and
Oh
they
man.
they got to eat and they got to sleep, and you hold on tight. Sometimes you're white knuckling it through the day, and sometimes you got this, and sometimes you think you do and you don't, and sometimes you think you don't and you do. And
Right?
that's the beauty of it, I think.
All right. There's just so many things just like firing through my mind with this. One thing though, I'm gonna step it back a little bit, is when you talked about running that marathon, before your son was born. I love that, dude. I almost want to like throw a challenge out to all dads. Like, look, your wife is going through so much right now
Yeah,
to like bring this child or girlfriend or whatever,
yeah,
but it's like bringing so much to the table. And here we are, we're kicking back like, I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll figure it out, right? But you threw it on you're like, look, I want to step up my own life somehow on a physical level so that I
yeah.
can be there present a little more with my son. Man, I love that. We're
I
gonna
don't
call that the
recommend
dad
it.
challenge, buddy.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. So this was going on. I was sitting up. It was late at night. And I was like, I got to do something. I don't know what to do. And I was at the time I was working in photography and video production. So I was traveling on the weekends and working a lot of weekends for events and stuff like that. And so I was like, I got to do something. And so I was like, what can I do? I was like, and I can't take credit for a full marathon, only a half, 13.1 miles. But
Oh,
so I
come
was like,
on
all right.
now.
I mean, I looked at the full marathon. I was like, let's ease into this. Um, but I got to that decision. I signed up before I ran a step. I was like, paid my money, signed up and I had 3.5 months or 4 months, something like that, from not running at all, not exercising really at all. I was in moderate shape because I was an athlete in a former life, but not really exercising. So I was like, great, got super pumped about it. It was like, went and got the shoes and the stuff, like completely looked apart. I set up for my first run. I was like, I'm just gonna run as far as I can. I'm gonna see kind of what I got in the tank. And so I'm running. I'm not looking at the clock or anything. And I come back and I almost collapsed in my front yard. I was just like gassed, just felt my heart was like beating out of my chest. And my wife was like, she was about to call 911. She was like, are you okay? And I'm like laying in the grass and I'm like crazy. And I think I looked down and I'd run like 1.1 miles in like 26 minutes. It was just ridiculous.
I love it.
And so I had a long way to go, but really what I learned through, and you're right, like that, looking at what my wife was going through and saying, it really wasn't, I think what I was really doing, and the vision that was in my head was, I had this story that the day I was going to run the race and the finish, coming across the finish line and just being like, ah, people are holding up signs, complete the movie scene, my
Yeah.
wife's like, that's my man, So that's what was going through my head the whole time. And so I kept running. It would be raining and it was winter, and I would go out for a run and run 3 miles, 5 miles, 7 miles in the rain in December. And so that kept pushing me, kept pushing me. The day of the race, I'm coming across the finish line. I'm barely able to run, mind you, because I just ran 13 miles.
Yeah.
Not a soul I knew. No signs, no cheers. My wife's not there. She's like behind, trying to find her way through. 9 months pregnant. Biggest anticlimactic moment for all these months of training ever. But I got the medal. My wife was super happy. I found her. She gave me a hug. She said how proud she was, and it was a really big accomplishment. But I think that was really like that, if you look back now that I'm thinking about it and telling that story out loud, like that's kind of like what being a dad is. It's like you have this picture of the, yeah, I'm going to be there every time. And then your baby comes and you're holding it and you're like, there's poop and there's puke and there's no cheers. And this is not a TV show. You know, it's
Right.
very much a correlation between my experience running a half marathon for the first time and being a dad. It was like, you have high hopes and then it's a thankless job.
Absolutely, man. No, I love that correlation. That's great. Now when you're like, because a lot of dads are going to wonder, especially there's some other dads that are going out, like that are out there, that are going through some really hard times with their kids as well.
Yeah.
How did you personally like handle, process, manage your like emotions, during these hard times?
Um, it's hard. I mean, it really is hard. And because, you have to be strong for your kid and you don't want to, Baxley's dealing with enough, he does chemotherapy once a week and we were in the hospital for a long time. He had to be airlifted with kidney failure and we had to catheter him 5-6 times a day just so he could get the urine out of his body. And we had to do that at home. And that was not fun for anybody, us, but imagine him, and so really when you look at what he's going through, I have to really suppress and then process. And meaning I have to suppress a little bit when I'm in front of him because he will feed off my energy. He'll feed off my emotion. And then the back end of that is I can't keep that inside. I have to let it go. Yeah. So there are times, I'm not going to lie, there were times at midnight I was sitting on my bathroom floor crying my eyes out, not knowing what's going to happen. I think the day that he got diagnosed, I don't tell this story a whole lot. And so if I get emotional, forgive me, but
no.
I put my son and my wife on a helicopter to be airlifted 2 hours away. It was a 2-hour drive to be airlifted. My son had kidney failure an hour before we had heard the word tumor for the first time. You can imagine. It's like being punched in the nose and then having to go do something important. So my son and my wife go on the helicopter. I'm coming home to pack stuff up because we don't know at this point, and I have to drive the 2 hours to go down. And I got in my house and I collapsed, like physically collapsed, and just praying, like convulsing, crying, doing all the stuff. And I think in that moment, this is going to be hard for me to tell, but I think in that moment, there was a sense of control what you can control, and your son's in good hands. And I don't know if everything's going to be okay, but your wife needs you, your kid needs you, and you need you. And so we have to process, and this is all in my head. And it was like that. And I don't know that I made this choice because I like to think a lot of things I choose are intentional, but I think I just decided, I was like, okay, I need to allow myself tears. I need to allow myself anger. I need to allow myself language from time to time. And I need to allow myself to be cognizant of that so that when my son needs me, I'm there. And I'm not there out of control. I'm there in control. And I'm there talking and communicating and hugging and loving. And I think that moment, had I not had that moment, and I didn't choose that moment, but had I not had that collapse moment, I don't know what I would do. And I think through that, I've just met a network of guys who are going, when you're on the cancer halls, you meet the dads. I go to pizza with the dads. We talk about real stuff. We talk about everything from, the finances of it to the emotions of it to just supporting our families and things. And so I don't know that there's a good way to do it. And the more dads I talk to, the more I realize everyone does it their own way and they're all right. Every way is correct. There's not a scripted, here's how you handle it. For me, I needed to collapse. I needed to surrender. I needed to not be the guy that controls everything. I needed to be the guy that just controls what he can control, makes good decisions, keeps a level head, but also will sit in front of anybody and cry and laugh and cuss and
absolutely
whatever he needs to do in that moment to show up as a better dad. That's what he does, and it's been quite a process, and I'm still not fully it's been, we're in week 30, 33. So 6 months, 7 months. So we're still kind of new at this, and we're definitely the fortunate ones of the people we know and see. But it doesn't mean I don't have moments. I still have moments of, is this real? Are they talking about us? Or is this real? We're getting better, or are we getting worse? Or is he sick, or is he not? Is he ever going to walk again? Is he? You have those moments, and so it definitely it's a boot camp of being a man, I think, and it's one that I had never experienced before. And I hope and that's kind of why I share my story. That's kind of why I'm excited to do this, because I don't want people to have to go through it or have to experience it to kind of get a sense of what being a real dad from where I sit is.
Mm.
I meet perfect strangers on the elevator and hug them like they're my brother. Like, because I know they're going from 8th floor to 7th floor, and I know what's on 8th floor, and I know that's not easy. That's the ICU for kids. So I know that if you're on the 8th floor and you're coming to 7th, you need a hug. You know,
oh, man.
100%. So it's that kind of thing that really has shaped me. The man I am today and the man I'm evolving into, the dad I'm evolving into, is very much in tune with that stuff. And I know that's a long version of a quick answer, but there's no way to describe it. And I see it in a lot of other dads, and it gives me hope. Like I see it in men like you, and I just hear you talk, and I can see it and I can feel it. And so I want you to know, like, what you do out in the world. I might be sitting in a hospital room listening to your podcast going, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. You know, so that's really the ripple effect. That's the impact that for you to continue, for me to continue, for other dads out there to continue just sharing with each other, like, how do we do this? Yeah. There's some dad out there that's having a really tough time right now that's going to hear this, and he's going to get a sense of, all right, it's going to be okay. I don't know how. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know that I've got support out there, even if I don't know them yet. You know, that's just that's how I think that's how we have to be. I don't know why. We just have to be that way.
Yeah. No, this is, man, it's unbelievable, brother. Seriously, like, you sharing this, like, means so much to me.
Got me a little bit. I don't shy away from it, but I know certain things, and I don't talk about that day. I don't know that I've ever talked about that day, maybe once on here and there, but it's a tough day to go back to. You know, and I'm more comfortable operating in where I am now than where I was. But I also think it's important, and thank you for allowing me that space to go back and acknowledge that day, because it's not all the time I get to do that, to be honest.
Man. Thank you for sharing that, brother. That's,
yeah,
I wish I could give you a hug right now, you know?
Yeah, through the waves.
Right?
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. I want you to be able to get in there and do puzzles with your son. So I just have one other question here for you.
Awesome.
What would the advice, or just what advice in general, do you have for soon-to-be dads, current dads, all of us dads out there?
Oh, man, just, God, there's so much, you know, but I think really just don't operate under pressure, or operate under love, operate under passion, and understand that I think our primary purpose on this planet, once you have kids, is to be the guiding light for those kids. And they don't have to be yours either. You know, they can be, I've seen a lot of stepdads that are really stepping up, and I've seen a lot of foster dads and dads that adopt and dads that are biological dads, and really just that male role model in some kid's life that may not have that. I think it's important to not, and this, I'm going to go back on this a little bit, whether you're a dad or not. I think as men, it's our duty to show society what is good, because the media portrays us as the doofy kind of we don't know, we're stupid, we don't care, we're aloof, we're, come home and all the stereotypes you see about dads. I really think there aren't a lot of dads out there that are like the stereotype that's fed to our generation of children. And I think if we can just come out and say, you know what, I'm going to step up and I'm going to be a man for somebody other than myself and other than my wife and other than my spouse or my girlfriend or whoever it is, I'm going to be a man for somebody who really needs it. And that person is not grown yet. And so I think when you look at what the role of a dad is, and the advice that I would give a dad is progress, not perfect. Just progress, not perfect. Be the best you today. Just be aware. Show up with love 100% of the time. Own up to your mistakes. Press on and show kids the way, because that's how this world's going to fix itself, I believe.
Oh, man. Love that, brother. Love that so much. Kevin, your time, your insight, your knowledge, just being you, dude, being the dad that you are, is why this is going to continue to keep going. And we need more men like yourself out there, brother. So keep being you. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been awesome chatting with you.
Keep going, man. I love what you do. I'm a fan. I'm a subscriber. I'm a follower. I love it, man. Thank you so much.